Rain drummed softly against the windows of the Sapphire Room, a high-end restaurant perched above Midtown Manhattan. The dinner rush had thinned to a gentle hum of crystal glasses and low jazz. For Anna Reyes, the 25-year-old waitress closing her last table, it was just another night, until she saw it. A small velvet pouch sat on the linen tablecloth, half hidden beneath a folded napkin. Inside was a ring, heavy, gold, perfectly polished. She turned it in her fingers, and the light from the chandelier scattered across the diamond like fire. "Probably worth more than my rent for the year," she murmured. Her manager, Greg, poked his head from behind the bar. "Finders keepers, Reyes?" he teased. Anna frowned. "No. Someone's coming back for this. You don't forget a rock like that." She held it closer, squinting at the inner band. The inscription was delicate, almost worn with age. "To M.R., all my love, D." Her stomach tightened. M.R., her mother's initials. Maria Reyes. It had to be a coincidence. There were plenty of M.R.s in New York. But still, the handwriting. It looked almost old-fashioned, like the cursive from her mother's old letters. "Everything okay?" Greg asked. "Yeah," she said quickly, pocketing the ring. "Just gonna drop this off at Lost and Found." But she didn't, not right away. Outside, the rain had deepened into a misty curtain, blurring the city lights into watercolor streaks. Anna stood under the awning, holding the ring in her palm. Her mother's voice floated back to her, soft, fading with time. "Love isn't about money, Anna. It's about promises you keep." Maria had died when Anna was 9. The details of her mother's past were fuzzy. A few photos, a half-told story about leaving a wealthy family somewhere upstate. Every time Anna had asked for more, Maria would change the subject. Now, this ring, engraved, elegant, and abandoned, felt like a breadcrumb leading straight into that silence. Back inside, she flipped through the dinner log. Table 16, the corner booth with the perfect skyline view, had been reserved under one name, Mr. D. Davenport. Anna froze. She'd heard that name before. Her best friend, Naomi, had once pointed at a magazine cover. "Dominic Davenport, old money, owns half of Park Avenue. His company builds skyscrapers and buys senators." Anna stared at the elegant cursive inscription again. "To M.R., all my love, D." Her pulse quickened. She looked up at the empty table, the linen napkin still slightly damp from a glass of water he'd left untouched. What if it wasn't just a coincidence? What if the man who'd left this ring, the same man whose name graced 1,000 headlines, was the D who had written those words decades ago? She imagined him, older now, powerful, maybe cruel. Someone her mother could have loved once, before everything changed. Before she'd become just Maria Reyes, the single mom working at a laundromat in Queens, humming sad songs in Spanish while folding clothes. Anna slipped the ring back into its pouch and tucked it safely into her jacket pocket. Her heart was hammering so hard it felt like it might shake loose the truth itself. She whispered to herself, barely audible over the rain. "I'm going to find him." The city stretched before her, neon lights, endless windows, a maze of secrets she never knew she'd been born into. And somewhere out there, the man who left that ring was about to learn that the past he buried wasn't done with him yet. The subway screeched into Queens at midnight, carrying the last handful of exhausted souls home. Anna sat by the window, her reflection ghosted over the dark tunnel, her hand clenched around the velvet pouch in her coat pocket. The ring felt heavier now, like a secret whispering against her palm. She tried not to think about it, but her mind kept circling back. The initials, the engraving. To M.R., all my love, D. Back in her tiny apartment, she dropped her keys into a chipped mug by the door and kicked off her shoes. The radiator hissed weakly. The walls were paper-thin. She could hear the neighbor's TV, playing an old sitcom laugh track. She poured herself a cup of instant coffee, sat at the wobbly kitchen table, and pulled out the ring. The gold shimmered even under the dull light of the single bulb. It was flawless, expensive but old, the kind of craftsmanship that didn't exist anymore. Her eyes caught on the small engraving again. M.R. She said the letters aloud, quietly. Maria Reyes. Her mother's name fit too perfectly. Her landlord, Mrs. Jenkins, was still awake downstairs. She always was. The woman lived on gossip and chamomile tea. Anna grabbed the ring and went down the narrow staircase. The old woman opened her door before Anna could knock. "You're up late again, sweetheart. Everything okay?" Anna hesitated, then held out the ring. "Can I ask you something weird?" Mrs. Jenkins adjusted her glasses, taking the jewelry delicately in her wrinkled hands. "Good heavens, that's no cheap ring. Where'd you find this?" "At work. Someone left it behind." The older woman tilted it toward the lamp. "That engraving. I know that font. Classic 1980s engraving, probably custom. See that tiny maker's mark, GR & Co. They used to craft for high society. The Davenports had all their jewelry made there." Anna's pulse jumped. "You mean the Davenport family? Like the Billionaires?" Mrs. Jenkins chuckled softly. "Oh, honey, there's only one Davenport family in New York worth remembering. Real estate, oil, politics, you name it. But why are you asking?" Anna swallowed hard. "The initials match my mom's name. Maria Reyes, and my mom. She never talked about her life before I was born." Mrs. Jenkins handed the ring back, her tone suddenly careful. "Be cautious, Anna. The rich, they guard their secrets like they guard their money, and sometimes digging them up comes with a price." Back upstairs, Anna sat cross-legged on her bed, laptop glowing in the dark. She typed Dominic Davenport Maria Reyes into the search bar. The results exploded across the screen. Articles, gala photos, old interviews. But one headline froze her cold. Davenport heir calls off engagement after fiancé's disappearance. 1999. She clicked. The photo was grainy, scanned from an old society column. A young Dominic Davenport stood beside a beautiful woman. Dark hair, soft smile, eyes full of warmth. Her mother's eyes. The caption read, "Maria Reyes, art conservator, engaged to real estate heir, Dominic Davenport, vanishes weeks before the wedding. Police suspect foul play. No body found." Anna's throat tightened. Her mother had told her she was born in 2000. The math lined up perfectly. She leaned back in her chair, trembling. The story her mom had told her. A broken love, a move to Queens, a father who wasn't around. It was all smoke and half-truths. She clicked through more links, finding one more clue. A photo of the same ring, gleaming on Maria's finger in an engagement announcement from 25 years ago. The headline called it the Davenport Phoenix ring. Anna exhaled shakily. This is it. This is hers. The walls of her little apartment suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. She closed her laptop, clutching the ring so tightly the edges pressed into her palm. There was only one way to know the truth now. She had to look the man in the eye, and tomorrow she'd walk straight into Davenport Tower with her mother's ring in hand. Morning light broke through the thin curtains like an interrogation lamp. Anna hadn't slept at all. The ring sat on her nightstand beside a cup of cold coffee, catching glints of gold in the weak dawn. Every time she closed her eyes, that headline replayed in her head. Fiancé vanishes before Davenport wedding. Her hands shook as she buttoned her thrift store blouse. She wasn't sure what she was doing, only that she couldn't stop now. Davenport Tower was in Midtown, a glittering monolith that scraped the clouds. She'd walked past it hundreds of times on her way to work, never imagining she'd have a reason to go inside. By the time she reached the revolving glass doors, her heart was hammering. She almost turned back. What was she going to say? "Hi, I think your lost ring might belong to my dead mother." Yeah, that would go great. Inside, the lobby felt like another planet. Marble floors, a chandelier the size of a car, security guards in tailored suits. A sleek woman at the front desk looked up with professional detachment. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" Anna swallowed. I found something that belongs to Mr. Davenport." The receptionist's smile was polite but brittle. "Mr. Davenport doesn't take unscheduled visitors. You can leave the item, and we'll be sure it's returned." Anna hesitated, then reached into her jacket and opened the velvet pouch. The woman's eyes widened at the sight of the ring. "Where did you get this?" she asked quietly. "I work at the Sapphire Room," Anna said. "He left it there last night." The woman picked up the phone, whispering something fast. Within seconds, a man in a grey suit approached. "Miss Reyes, is it? Please follow me." He led her into an elevator lined with dark wood. The higher it climbed, the more her stomach twisted. When the doors opened, the office was like a cathedral. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist furniture, everything drenched in quiet power. Dominic Davenport stood at the far end of the room, facing the skyline. He was older than she expected, maybe in his late 50s, but he carried the kind of authority that didn't fade with age. His silver hair caught the light, and his voice, when he finally spoke, was low and even. "You found my ring?" Anna's throat went dry. "Yes, sir. You left it at the restaurant." He turned slowly, his sharp blue eyes locking onto hers. "May I?" She handed him the pouch. His fingers brushed hers for half a second, and it felt like static electricity. He pulled out the ring and stared at it for a long time, his expression unreadable. Then something shifted. His jaw tightened. His eyes flickered with pain. "Where exactly did you find this?" "On your table," she said. "After your dinner. I just thought—" He cut her off. "You should have left it there." Anna blinked. "I was just trying to do the right thing." He set the ring on his desk. For a moment he looked like a man staring into a grave. "This ring hasn't been on my hand in 25 years." Anna frowned. "But you were wearing it last night." His gaze snapped up, sharp as glass. "No, I wasn't." A chill crawled down her spine. "Then how did it end up at my table?" He didn't answer. He walked to a drawer, pulled out a leather folder, and flipped it open. Inside was a faded photograph, her mother, younger, radiant, sitting in a garden. The same face that smiled from Anna's only childhood photo. Anna's voice cracked. "Where did you get that?" Dominic's hand trembled. "She was the love of my life." Anna's breath caught. "She was my mother," she whispered. The air between them froze, silent and heavy. And for the first time, Dominic Davenport looked at her not as a stranger, but as the ghost of a woman he had buried decades ago. The silence in Dominic's office stretched until it became unbearable. Anna stood frozen, the city glimmering behind him like a million watching eyes. Dominic finally exhaled, slow and ragged, as if the air itself resisted leaving his lungs. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. "My name is Anna Reyes," she said, her voice barely steady. "Maria Reyes was my mother." His hand gripped the edge of his desk. For a man who built skyscrapers and dictated economies, he suddenly looked fragile, like the floor beneath him had cracked. He walked to a shelf and pulled down another frame, a wedding announcement that never happened. "Maria vanished 25 years ago. Everyone told me she was dead." Anna's heart pounded. "She wasn't. She raised me in Queens. She never told me who my father was." Dominic sank into his chair, staring at the photo like he was trying to rewrite history through sheer will. "She left without a word. One day she was gone. No letter, no call. Just gone." "She must have been scared," Anna said softly. "She never talked about her past. But she kept this ring." He looked up sharply. "You mean there's another one?" Anna nodded. "The same design. She wore it on a chain until the day she died." He pressed his hands together, breathing hard. "My God!" Before either of them could speak again, the door swung open. A tall, elegant woman in her 70s stepped in, dressed in a cream suit and pearls. Her eyes were steel grey, cold and calculating. "Dominic," she said briskly, "your board meeting starts in 10 minutes. Who is this?" He hesitated. "Mother, this is Anna. She's—" The woman's eyes darted to Anna, assessing her from head to toe. "A journalist?" "No," Anna said quickly. "I found his ring. It belonged to my mother." The woman's gaze sharpened. "And your mother's name?" "Maria Reyes." For a split second, the woman's composure cracked. Then her lips tightened into a thin smile. "Impossible. That woman died years ago." Dominic's tone hardened. "You told me that, Mother. You said the police confirmed it." Eleanor Davenport didn't flinch. "Because that's what I believed. Until now." She turned back to Anna, her expression unreadable. "You need to be careful with the stories you tell, young lady. My family has suffered enough lies." Anna clenched her fists. "I'm not lying. I just want to know the truth." Eleanor's voice was icy. "The truth? The truth is that Maria Reyes destroyed my son's life. She took something that didn't belong to her and ran. And now you show up, waving a ring like a ticket to our table." Dominic stood abruptly. "Mother, that's enough." Eleanor ignored him. "Do yourself a favor, Miss Reyes. Take whatever fantasy your mother gave you and bury it again, before it buries you." The room crackled with tension. Anna's chest burned, but she refused to cry. "I don't want your money," she said, her voice shaking. "I just want to know who my father is." Eleanor stepped closer, her perfume sharp and cold. "You're looking at the wrong man. Dominic Davenport has no daughter." The words hit like a slap. Dominic's face was pale, his eyes darting between them. "Mother, please," but Eleanor was already at the door. "Get rid of her, Dominic. The past is dead for a reason." The door shut with a click that echoed like a gavel. Anna stood there, trembling, tears threatening to spill. Dominic stared at the closed door for a long moment before speaking. "I don't know what to believe," he whispered. "Then find out," Anna said, "because I think you've been lied to too." For the first time, he looked at her not as an intruder, but as a mirror reflecting everything he'd lost. And in that moment, Anna realized she wasn't just chasing her past. She was walking straight into someone else's war. Anna barely remembered leaving Davenport Tower. She just walked, past the polished marble floors, past the doorman's polite nod, out into the cold Manhattan air that hit her like a slap. The noise of the city was deafening. Her mind spun with the same 3 words. No daughter, no daughter, no daughter. By the time she reached her apartment, her legs were shaking. She dropped her bag and sank to the floor. Her mother's old photo sat on the coffee table, framed in cheap wood. Maria's smile looked almost alive under the lamplight, warm, forgiving, full of secrets. Anna whispered, "Why didn't you tell me, Mom? What were you so afraid of?" Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "You should have stayed out of this." Her stomach dropped. She typed back instantly. "Who is this?" No reply. A car engine rumbled outside, idling longer than it should have. She peeked through the curtain. A black sedan, windows tinted. It sat there for a full minute before pulling away. Anna's heart pounded. She wasn't the type to imagine things. But tonight, every sound in the building made her flinch. The creak of pipes, footsteps in the hallway, the whisper of wind against glass. At 10:37 p.m., there was a knock. Not a neighbor's knock. 3 sharp, deliberate taps. "Who is it?" she called, her voice trembling. Silence. Then a man's voice, calm and professional. "Delivery for Ms. Reyes." "I didn't order anything." "Signature required." Her instincts screamed. She didn't move. The shadow under the door lingered, then disappeared. A moment later, an envelope slid through the mail slot and hit the floor. Anna stared at it. The paper was thick, expensive. Her name was typed neatly on the front. She picked it up with shaking hands and opened it. Inside was a single check, 50,000 towels, and a short note written in elegant handwriting. Walk away, for your own good. No signature. Her mouth went dry. $50,000 was more money than she'd ever seen in her life. Enough to wipe out every debt, every late payment. But the message beneath it was clear. Stop asking questions, or disappear, just like her mother did. She ripped the check in half. The sound was louder than it should have been. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a voicemail. Dominic's voice. Tired. Strained. Anna, I don't know what to believe yet. But if you're right, if you really are Maria's daughter, then there are people who won't let that truth come out. Be careful. The message ended abruptly. Anna sat there in silence, the pieces of the check scattered at her feet like confetti from a war she didn't start. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She thought about the car, the unknown text, Eleanor's face. So calm, so cold. This wasn't just a family secret. This was something darker, buried deep, protected by money and fear. She went to her closet and pulled out a shoebox, her mother's keepsakes, old letters, faded receipts, a hospital bracelet with baby girl Reyes written in fading ink. At the bottom was a small silver key she'd never been able to match to anything. She turned it in her palm. Maybe this was part of it too. Her mother had run for a reason. Now someone wanted to make sure Anna didn't finish what she started. She tucked the key into her pocket, her jaw set. Fine, she said aloud. You want me gone? You'll have to make me disappear. Outside, thunder rumbled over the city, rolling low and distant, and somewhere in the darkness, someone was already making plans to do exactly that. The next morning, Anna woke to the sound of sirens echoing through the streets below. She hadn't slept, not really. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that black car idling outside her window. The unsigned note, the check. $50,000 for silence. Proof that she was on to something real. She made a decision before the sun was fully up. If Dominic Davenport wouldn't believe her, she'd make him. The morning air was sharp as she crossed the street toward MedCore Labs, a sterile building tucked between a pharmacy and a law office. She'd found it online at 3 a.m., a private clinic that handled discreet paternity testing for high-profile clients. Inside, the receptionist greeted her with a professional smile. Good morning. How can we help you? Anna hesitated. I need a DNA test done, confidentially. Of course. Do you have both samples? Her hand trembled as she reached into her purse. One's mine. She set a small envelope on the counter. The other, I got last night. The receptionist raised an eyebrow but didn't ask. The truth was, Anna hadn't planned to steal anything. But after Dominic's warning call, she'd gone back to the sapphire room, where she knew his reserved table still bore his untouched water glass. The staff thought she was just cleaning up after a late guest. They hadn't seen her slip the napkin-wrapped glass into her bag. She handed over the swab from her cheek and the cup rim carefully sealed in a plastic bag. Can you run it today? The woman checked the forms. Expedited results take 48 hours, but there's a surcharge. That's fine, Anna said quickly. Just do it. As she walked out, a flicker of paranoia followed her down the block, eyes watching from unseen corners, cars that seemed to idle too long at red lights. She told herself it was just nerves. Still, she clutched her phone like a weapon. That night, she met her friend Naomi at their favorite dive bar. The neon sign buzzed faintly overhead, casting blue light over the sticky tables. Naomi leaned forward, whispering, You look like you haven't slept in a week. What's going on? Anna exhaled, the words tumbling out. Dominic, the ring, Eleanor, the threats. Naomi's eyes widened with every sentence. Jesus, Anna, you think this guy's really your father? I don't know, Anna said, but my gut says yes. My mom didn't lie for nothing. Naomi stirred her drink, frowning. You're playing with fire. People like them. They don't lose. Then I'll burn with them, Anna said softly. Naomi looked at her for a long time. If you get those results back, and he's really your dad, what then? Anna didn't answer. She didn't know. When she got home, the black car was gone. But something else was waiting. A single white rose taped to her door. No note this time. Just the flower, perfect and ghostly in the hallway's yellow light. Her pulse spiked. She pulled it down and tossed it into the trash, her hands shaking. The next 48 hours crawled by like a fever dream. She barely ate, barely moved. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart leapt to her throat. At exactly 6:02 p.m. on Friday, an email arrived. Subject: results ready. Confidential. Her breath hitched as she clicked the link. The words blurred for a moment before snapping into focus. Probability of paternity, 99.8%. Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood, staring at the screen, tears flooding her vision. He was her father. The man who built skyscrapers and buried the truth was the same man who'd abandoned her mother. But the victory didn't feel like relief. It felt like a fuse had been lit, because now that she had proof, someone would have to pay for keeping the secret buried. Outside, thunder rolled again. And somewhere in a penthouse high above the city, Eleanor Davenport was already making her next move. The rain hadn't stopped since the email arrived. It drummed against the windows like the universe was warning her to stay quiet. But Anna couldn't. The DNA result sat open on her laptop. Undeniable. 99.8%. Dominic Davenport wasn't a maybe anymore. He was her father. She tried calling him that night, 3 times. Each went straight to voicemail. No callback. No message. Just silence. By the next morning, her fear had turned into anger. She wasn't going to wait for his permission to exist. If he wanted to ignore the truth, fine. But she would find out why her mother had run and what his family had done to make her disappear. She started where Maria's story had ended. The shoebox. It was buried under her bed, taped shut with a strip of faded duct tape. Inside were the same few relics she'd looked at 100 times before. The hospital bracelet, a photo of her mom holding her as a baby, and that silver key she'd never identified. But there was something else this time. A false bottom. Thin cardboard, curling up at the edge. Anna pulled it free. Underneath was a small leather-bound notebook, aged, cracked, and tied with a ribbon. Her mother's handwriting was unmistakable. She untied it carefully. The first page read, "For Anna, if you ever need to know the truth." Her throat tightened. She began to read. October 3rd, 1999. I met Dee again tonight. He doesn't understand why I have to leave. He thinks love can protect us from everything. But he doesn't know his mother the way I do. She's made it clear, if I stay, it'll destroy him. Anna's fingers trembled as she turned the pages. October 6th. I'm leaving tomorrow. The driver will take me to the airport. She says I'll get money, a new name, a clean start. She doesn't know I'm already pregnant. Anna's vision blurred. Her mother hadn't left because she wanted to. She'd been forced out, paid to vanish. There were more entries, some smudged from old tears. November 12th. I thought I could stay hidden, but someone's been following me. I see the same black car every day. If something happens to me, promise me she'll never find out who Anna is until she's strong enough to fight back. Her breath caught. She could only mean one person, Eleanor Davenport. Anna closed the journal, her hands trembling. She looked at the silver key again. Maybe it opened something her mother had left behind, a safety deposit box, a locker, something that could prove what Eleanor had done. She barely noticed her phone buzzing until the vibration rattled across the table. Unknown number again. She answered, her voice sharp. Who is this? A pause. Then a low male voice. You need to stop digging, Miss Reyes. Who are you? I'm someone who works for people who don't like surprises. Her stomach turned cold. You're wasting your time. I already know the truth. That's exactly the problem. The line went dead. Anna's reflection in the dark window didn't look like the same woman who'd started this. Her eyes were harder now, her jaw set with something that looked a lot like resolve. She packed the journal, the key, and a copy of the DNA report into her bag. Then she grabbed her jacket and stepped out into the storm. If Eleanor Davenport wanted to erase her mother, fine. But she wasn't going to erase her. Anna whispered to herself, "You tried to bury the wrong woman." Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the journal clutched to her chest, and for the first time, Anna felt like her mother's voice wasn't a memory. It was a weapon. By Monday morning, Manhattan was buzzing, and this time, Anna's name was everywhere. It started with a headline. Waitress claims to be Davenport heir. Then another. Secret daughter of billionaire, mystery woman comes forward. By the time she got to work, her phone had over 100 missed calls. Someone had leaked her DNA results. Anna froze behind the bar as her manager waved a folded newspaper in her face. "Is this you?" he hissed. The photo was unmistakable. Her leaving Davenport Tower 2 days ago, the velvet pouch in her hand. "Jesus, Anna, what did you do?" She shook her head. "I didn't talk to anyone, I swear." "Then someone else did," he said, "and whoever it was, they just turned your life into a headline." Her co-workers whispered as she passed. "That's her," one murmured, "the billionaire's secret kid." By lunchtime, reporters were waiting outside the Sapphire Room. Cameras flashed through the rain as she ducked into a cab. Her phone rang again, an unknown number. She answered, expecting another threat. But this time, it was Dominic. His voice was tired, distant. "Anna, you need to stay off the radar. Things are getting out of control." "Out of control?" she snapped. "You think? Someone leaked the DNA test. The press is camped outside my building." "I didn't leak it," he said quietly. "My mother did." Anna froze. "Eleanor? She's trying to discredit you. She called a press conference for this afternoon. Don't go anywhere near it." But Anna was already pulling up the news feed on her phone. Live, Eleanor Davenport addresses paternity claims. She watched the video in stunned silence as Eleanor took the stage in front of a sea of reporters. Calm, composed, every inch the matriarch. "I want to address the rumors regarding a young woman claiming to be my granddaughter," Eleanor began. "While I understand the fascination, these allegations are false. My son has been targeted by a con artist exploiting a family tragedy for attention." Anna's chest tightened. She turned up the volume. Eleanor continued, "We will be pursuing legal action for defamation and theft of private property." A reporter shouted, "Are you saying the ring she returned isn't yours?" Eleanor smiled, smooth as glass. "A forgery. The original has been in our possession for decades." Anna's blood ran cold. A forgery. The ring her mother had cherished all her life, dismissed like trash. She stormed out of the cab, ignoring the drizzle, ignoring the cameras still snapping pictures. She didn't care anymore. If Eleanor wanted a public fight, she'd get one. Back at her apartment, Naomi was waiting with wide eyes and a laptop open to a live feed. "You're trending, Anna. Twitter, Reddit, every news channel. They're tearing you apart." Anna collapsed into a chair. "She's lying. She knows exactly who I am." Naomi's voice softened. "Then prove it." Anna pulled the journal from her bag and set it on the table. "I already have proof. My mom's words, the DNA results, everything. But the world doesn't care about truth. They care about whoever screams louder." Naomi frowned. "So what now?" Anna stared at the screen, watching Eleanor's face fill the frame. Calm, powerful, untouchable. "I fight louder." That night, Anna sent the journal scans to a reporter who'd once covered corruption at Davenport Holdings. She didn't expect him to reply so fast. 10 minutes later, her phone buzzed with a message. "Meet me tomorrow. I believe you, but you're in danger." Anna looked out at the storm tearing through the city. her reflection flickering in the window like a ghost. Eleanor Davenport had started a war in public. But what she didn't know was that Anna Reyes was done playing defense. The next morning, the city felt colder. Anna's name was still plastered across headlines, but the tone had shifted. Eleanor's press conference had worked. Every news anchor called her the alleged daughter. Every story framed her as a scammer chasing fortune. She kept her hood up as she walked to the cafe, where she was supposed to meet the reporter. The place was quiet, tucked on a side street near Bryant Park. Inside, the smell of espresso mixed with rain-soaked coats. A man waved from a corner table. Anna Reyes? He looked mid-40s, lean, sharp eyes behind wire-frame glasses. Evan Ross, he said, sliding a card across the table. Investigative journalist. You did the right thing contacting me. I didn't know who else to trust, she admitted, sitting down. He lowered his voice. I've covered the Davenports for years. I know their game. Eleanor controls the press, the courts, everything. But if you've got real evidence, I can help you make it public. Anna pulled the leather journal from her bag. This belonged to my mom. It proves Eleanor paid her to disappear. Evan flipped through the pages, scanning quickly. If this is real, it's explosive. But you'll need more. Paper trails, witness statements. Something that can't be dismissed as emotion. He paused. Do you still have the key you mentioned? Anna nodded. Yeah, but I don't know what it opens. Then that's where we start, he said. Let me make a few calls. There's an old Davenport holdings storage site on the Lower East Side. If your mom hid something, that's the place. Anna leaned back, overwhelmed. You really think she left more behind? Evan smiled slightly. People who are forced to disappear always leave a piece of themselves, somewhere safe. Before she could respond, the cafe door opened, and the room seemed to hush. Dominic Davenport walked in, flanked by two men in dark suits. His expression was hard, but his eyes locked on her with something between fear and regret. Anna, he said softly. She stood, tense. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you. His gaze flicked to the journal in Evan's hands. You're making this worse. Evan stayed calm. Mr. Davenport, we're just talking. Off the record. Dominic's jaw tightened. Nothing is off the record anymore. My company's in free fall. The board's panicking. Investors are pulling out. Eleanor's blaming me for bringing shame to the family. Anna's anger simmered. Maybe losing a few billion is what it takes to tell the truth. He sighed, looking older than before. You think this is about money? This is about survival. My mother has buried bigger scandals than this. If she feels threatened, she'll destroy us both. Evan leaned forward. So help us stop her. You know what she did. Dominic hesitated, eyes flicking between them. You have no idea what you're up against. I'm your daughter, Anna said quietly. You think I'm scared of her? That hit him. He looked away, pain flashing across his face. I can't protect you if you keep pushing. Then don't protect me, she said. Stand with me. He didn't answer. He just turned and walked out, his security team following like shadows. Evan exhaled slowly. He's terrified. Good, Anna said. He should be. When she got home that night, the lights in her apartment wouldn't turn on. She flipped the switch twice. Nothing. The air felt wrong, heavy. Then she noticed the faint scent of her mother's old perfume. On her kitchen table lay a single envelope. Inside was a photograph. Maria, pregnant, smiling beside Dominic. On the back, scrawled in elegant handwriting, You're making the same mistake she did. Anna stared at the words, her pulse pounding, and somewhere above the glittering skyline, Eleanor Davenport watched from her penthouse window, whispering to her assistant, It's time to end this for good. The rain had finally stopped, but Manhattan still smelled like metal and secrets. Anna barely slept. The photo from the envelope sat on her nightstand, like a ghost she couldn't bury. Her mother, radiant and alive, her father smiling beside her as if they'd had a future. And the message on the back, "You're making the same mistake she did," echoed through her head. She stared at the ceiling, whispering, "Then I'll finish what she couldn't." At noon, her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She almost didn't answer. "Anna Reyes?" a man's voice said. Calm, young, confident. "Who's asking?" "My name's Michael Carter. I work for Davenport Holdings." "But not for Eleanor." She sat up. "Then who?" "For Dominic, and for the truth." Her pulse quickened. "If this is another threat—" "It's not. Meet me at the corner of 7th and 49th. You'll want to hear what I have to say." She hesitated, then grabbed her coat. The cafe he'd mentioned was crowded, but she spotted him easily, a man in his 30s, clean-cut, expensive suit, no tie. He looked like he belonged to the Davenport world, but didn't worship it. When she approached, he smiled faintly. "Miss Reyes, you look like you haven't breathed in days." "Get to the point," she said. He nodded. "Eleanor Davenport forged your mother's death certificate." Anna froze. "What?" "I found it while reviewing sealed corporate records. It was filed through a private attorney in 2000, same month your mother disappeared. Eleanor's signature is on every authorization." "Why would she do that?" "Because Maria was pregnant," he said simply. "And because if Dominic married her, your grandmother would have lost control of the family trust. She made Maria's disappearance look like an accident and paid her to vanish." Anna gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady herself. "So she destroyed both their lives to protect her fortune." Michael slid an envelope toward her. "Here, copies of what I found. Death certificate, transaction records, and something else. A hospital file from Queen's Medical. The original, not the one your mother kept." Anna's breath caught. "The hospital file?" He nodded. "The one that proves who signed as your father." Her hands shook as she opened it. The ink was faded, but the name was clear. Father. Dominic Davenport. She looked up, eyes wide. "She hid this from him." "She hid it from everyone," Michael said quietly. "And she'll do worse if you go public. She's already making calls to silence you. You need to be smart about how you fight." Anna took a shaky breath. "You think I'm scared?" "I think you're angry," he said, "and that's good. But anger without a plan gets people killed." "Why are you helping me?" she asked. His smile was faint, almost sad. "Because I owe your mother my life. She saved me when I was a kid, pulled me out of a wreck near the old Davenport estate. She never knew I was one of them. I've been waiting a long time to repay that debt." Anna sat back, her throat tight. "Then help me take her down." Michael leaned in. "I will. But first you need to see something." He pulled out a flash drive and set it on the table. "Security footage from the night your mother disappeared. The files were buried in a corporate archive. I copied them before Eleanor could erase them." Anna reached for it, but he stopped her hand. "Once you watch this, there's no going back." "I crossed that line a long time ago," she said. He nodded once. "Then watch it tonight, and call me when you're ready." She slipped the drive into her jacket pocket, the weight of it electric. As she stepped into the street, a thought cut through the noise of traffic. If this footage proved what Michael claimed, Eleanor Davenport wasn't just guilty of deceit. She was guilty of something far worse. And by the time the sun rose again, the truth would no longer belong to the Davenports. It would belong to the world. Anna sat alone in her apartment that night, the flash drive burning a hole in her pocket. The city outside was awash of neon and rain, lights sliding across her walls like ghosts. She poured herself a glass of cheap wine, hands trembling, and plugged the drive into her laptop. A folder popped open. Inside were 3 files, each time-stamped from the night her mother had vanished, 25 years ago. The first was grainy security footage. The camera faced a driveway lined with oaks, a long stretch of the Davenport estate. It was late, past midnight. A car's headlights cut through the darkness, pulling to a stop. A young woman stepped out, clutching a suitcase. Even through the static, Anna knew her instantly. Her mother. Maria Reyes looked terrified. She turned toward the house, mouthing words too faint to hear. Moments later, another figure appeared, a tall woman in pearls, elegant and cold. Eleanor Davenport. Anna's breath hitched. Eleanor approached Maria slowly, like a predator calming its prey. They argued, gestures sharp, angry. Then Eleanor handed her an envelope. Maria shook her head, tears glinting under the porch light. Eleanor stepped closer. Her hand shot out, grabbing Maria's arm. Maria tried to pull away. The video glitched for a second, the image stuttering. When it cleared, the suitcase was on the ground, the car door open, and Eleanor was gone. Maria stood frozen for a moment, then ran down the driveway and vanished into the darkness. Anna stared at the screen, heart pounding. That was the last moment anyone had seen her mother alive. She clicked the second file. It was an audio recording. The sound of static, then Eleanor's unmistakable voice. Calm, measured, chilling. She'll take the money and disappear. No one needs to know about the child. Then Dominic's voice. Younger, desperate. Mother, this isn't right. I love her. You'll forget it, her, Eleanor said coldly. It's what's best for the family. She doesn't belong in our world. The recording ended abruptly. Anna sat there for a long moment, shaking. Then she clicked the final file. It was a hospital record, scanned, unedited. Patient, Maria Reyes, maternity ward. Father, Dominic Davenport. Discharge, against medical advice. Her hand covered her mouth. Her mother had gone into labor early, alone, terrified, hiding from a family that had erased her existence. She whispered to herself, "You were fighting for me the whole time, weren't you, Mum?" Her phone buzzed. It was Michael. "Did you watch it?" "Yes," she said, her voice trembling. "She paid her off. My mother didn't leave. She was forced out." Michael's voice dropped. "There's more. I confronted Eleanor this afternoon. She knows I gave you the files. You need to get out of the city tonight." "Where would I even go?" "Anywhere she doesn't control. She's desperate, Anna. Davenport Holdings is collapsing. Dominic's investors are walking. She'll do anything to protect what's left." Anna looked at the journal, the ring, the drive. "I'm done running. She took my mother's life. I'm not giving her mine." "Then at least don't face her alone," Michael said. "I'll meet you at Davenport Tower in the morning. We end this together." Anna hung up and closed her laptop. Her reflection stared back at her in the dark screen, eyes red, jaw tight. She picked up the ring, the same one that had started it all, and slipped it onto her finger. For the first time, it felt like it belonged there. The rain outside turned to wind, howling against the glass as if warning her to stop. But she whispered to herself, steady and clear, "No more lies." Tomorrow she would walk into the Emperor that had built its fortune on her mother's silence, and she would burn it clean. And somewhere in her penthouse above the city, Eleanor Davenport was already waiting, with a plan that would make sure Anna Reyes never left that building alive. The morning sky hung low and grey over Manhattan, the kind of colourless day that felt like the world was holding its breath. Anna stood across the street from Davenport Tower, clutching the leather journal in one hand and her mother's ring on her finger. Her reflection shimmered in the mirrored glass of the building, small, trembling, but unbroken. Michael arrived right on time, slipping from a black sedan with a folder under his arm. "You sure about this?" he asked. "I'm done hiding," Anna said. "She's been writing the story for 25 years. I'm taking the pen back." He nodded grimly. "Security will try to stop us. Stay close." They walked through the revolving doors. The lobby went silent. People recognized her instantly. Phones came up. Cameras clicked. The Waitress imposter had returned to the empire she supposedly tried to scam. The elevator ride to the top felt endless. Michael stood beside her, eyes fixed ahead, jaw tight. When the doors opened, Eleanor Davenport was already waiting in her office, calm, poised, like she'd been expecting the storm. "Miss Reyes," she said smoothly, "I was wondering when you'd come crawling back." Anna stepped forward. "I'm not crawling. I came to tell you your lies are done." Eleanor's smile didn't reach her eyes. "You think you've found the truth. You've found what I allowed you to find. My son's mistake should have stayed buried." Michael dropped the folder onto Eleanor's desk with a sharp smack. "Hospital records, forged death certificate, financial transfers to a Maria R. account. You bought her silence." Eleanor didn't even blink. "Proof is a matter of interpretation. And interpretation," she said, standing slowly, "is something I happen to own." Anna's voice shook with fury. "You paid my mother to disappear, then made her look like a thief. She wasn't after your money. She was protecting me." Eleanor's tone hardened. "You were never supposed to exist. You were an accident of defiance, a threat to everything your father built." "My father," Anna snapped, "wasn't the one who lied. You did." For the first time, Eleanor's mask cracked. "Do you think Dominic would have survived if she'd stayed? That woman turned him into a weak man. I saved him. I saved this family." "By destroying hers," Anna said. The door burst open. Dominic stood there, pale and furious. "Mother, stop talking." Eleanor didn't move. "You shouldn't be here." "I should have been here 25 years ago," he said, voice breaking. He turned to Anna. "I saw the footage. Everything she said is true. I should have known. I should have found her." Eleanor's voice dropped to a hiss. "Dominic, don't you dare!" He slammed his hand on the desk. "You lied to me. You let me believe she was dead. You let me live like a ghost." For the first time, Eleanor looked small. Not regal, not untouchable. Just old. "I did what I had to. Love makes men weak. Legacy makes them eternal." Anna stared at her, disgusted. "You don't know what legacy means. Legacy isn't a tower or a fortune. It's the people you protect, and you've got none left." Eleanor's calm cracked completely. "You think anyone will believe you? You're a waitress. You're nothing." Anna reached into her bag and tossed the flash drive onto the desk. "Then I guess the whole world's about to see nothing. The files are already backed up, scheduled for release in 10 minutes. Every news outlet, every journalist you tried to buy." Eleanor's eyes widened for the first time. Dominic stepped forward, voice low. "It's over, Mother." Eleanor's hand shook slightly as she whispered, "You've doomed us all." Anna looked at her, steady. "No, I freed us." Outside the windows, the clouds began to break, spilling pale sunlight across the skyline, as if the city itself was exhaling. And as the timer on Anna's phone ticked down, the truth that had been buried for a quarter-century was about to set the world on fire. The truth spread through Manhattan like wildfire. By noon, every major news outlet had published the files. Maria's journal entries, the forged death certificate, the footage of Eleanor's confrontation on the estate. Davenport Holdings wasn't just in crisis. It was collapsing. The morning news anchors' voices bled through every cafe and office. "Breaking now. Evidence suggests the Davenport matriarch bribed a woman to vanish decades ago. A secret heir emerges as the company faces federal investigation." In the middle of it all, Anna sat alone on a bench in Bryant Park, her phone buzzing non-stop. Reporters, lawyers, strangers, everyone wanted a comment. But she didn't want fame. She wanted justice. Michael arrived breathless, clutching a newspaper. "It's everywhere," he said. "You did it." Anna stared at the paper. The front page showed her mother's photo beside Eleanor's. 2 women, one silenced, one exposed. "No," Anna said quietly. "She did it. My mom." He smiled faintly. "Still, the world finally knows who you are." Across town, the Davenport Tower boardroom was in chaos. Dominic stood at the head of the table, papers scattered before him, while board members shouted over one another. "This is catastrophic," one man barked. "The stock's down 40% in 3 hours." Another hissed, You have to distance yourself, Dominic. Issue a statement condemning your mother." He looked up slowly, exhaustion etched into his face. "She's already destroyed herself. I'm not kicking her while she's down." "Then what are you going to do?" someone demanded. Dominic hesitated. "I'm going to tell the truth." He walked out of the boardroom before anyone could stop him. By early evening, cameras surrounded the Davenport Tower steps. Reporters shouted questions as Dominic stepped up to the podium, his tie gone, his voice raw. "My name is Dominic Davenport," he began, "and today, for the first time in 25 years, I'm telling you the truth." He paused, looking out at the crowd, the flashes of cameras reflecting in his tired eyes. "I loved a woman named Maria Reyes. My mother forced her to disappear, and I believed she was dead. I was wrong. She was alive, raising our daughter while I built an empire on lies." The crowd buzzed. He continued, voice breaking. "That daughter, Anna Reyes, risked everything to uncover what we buried. She is my child, and she deserves the life we stole from her." Somewhere in the crowd, Anna watched from the edge, hidden beneath a hood. Tears burned her eyes. Dominic looked straight into the cameras. "To the employees, the shareholders, the people who trusted this company, hold me accountable. But don't punish her. The sins were mine, and my mother's." He stepped back, ignoring the shouted questions, and disappeared into the building. Minutes later, social media exploded. The clip of Dominic's confession went viral. At Davenport, truth trending worldwide. But in the penthouse above it all, Eleanor watched the broadcast in silence. The empire she'd built, the power she'd hoarded, it was all slipping away. Her reflection in the glass looked older, smaller. Her assistant hovered near the door. "Ma'am, the board has called an emergency meeting. They're asking for your resignation." Eleanor's hand tightened around her a glass of scotch. "Of course they are. Do you want me to call your driver?" She shook her head. "No, leave me." The assistant hesitated, then left. For a long time, Eleanor just sat there, staring out at the city that no longer bowed to her. Down below, Anna's phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. "You've won the battle, but you don't understand the war." No signature. Anna looked up toward the glowing penthouse window high above, where she knew Eleanor was watching. She whispered to herself, "Then I'll finish the war too." The wind carried the city's noise like distant applause, horns, shouts, thunder rolling from somewhere far away. And as the skyline flickered to life, the empire that once silenced her mother now carried her daughter's name on every headline. By the next morning, New York had a new obsession. Every screen downtown flashed the same words: "The fall of the Davenport dynasty." News anchors dissected every angle, talk shows replayed Dominic's confession, and social media turned Anna into both a hero and a villain. She watched it all from the window of her apartment, numb. The rain had stopped, but the storm hadn't. Somewhere between relief and exhaustion, she felt hollow. Truth had a price, and she was paying it. Naomi burst through the door, holding 2 coffees and her phone. "You're on the front page again. They're calling you the waitress who broke an empire." Anna gave a tired laugh. Catchy. "Maybe I'll get a sponsorship deal with a coffee brand." Naomi frowned. "I'm serious. You're trending worldwide. But not all of it's good." She scrolled through comments. "Half the city loves you. The other half thinks you ruined thousands of jobs." Anna sank into a chair. "I didn't ruin anything. I just told the truth." "Yeah," Naomi said softly, "but truth doesn't always pay rent." Before Anna could reply, her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She hesitated, then answered. "Miss Reyes?" The voice was deep, formal. "This is Detective Larson, NYPD. We'd like you to come down to the station. We have new information about your mother's case." Her stomach clenched. "What kind of information?" "Evidence recovered from the Davenport estate," he said. "Something you should see in person." 30 minutes later, she and Michael were in a sterile room downtown. Detective Larson spread a stack of photos across the table, old Polaroids, faded with time. "These were found behind a false wall in Eleanor Davenport's study," he said. "Looks like they were hidden for years." Anna leaned forward. The photos showed her mother, Maria, sitting in a garden, holding a newborn baby. Her. Dominic was beside them, smiling. A family that never had the chance to exist. Michael exhaled. "She kept these all this time." Larson nodded. "And there's more. One of our forensics guys found traces of a sedative on an old medical bag, also hidden in that wall. Enough to knock someone unconscious." Anna's voice shook. "You think she—" "We think Eleanor may have tried to make your mother's disappearance look like an accident. But something went wrong. Maria got away before she could be silenced." Anna's breath caught. "She ran to save me." Larson slid a final photo toward her, a security image from the night Eleanor had confronted Maria. But this one was different from the file Michael had found. In the background, standing half in shadow, was another figure. A younger man with a familiar face. Dominic. Anna stared at the image. He was there. Michael frowned. Maybe he didn't know what his mother was planning. Or maybe he did, Anna whispered. That night, Anna walked alone through Central Park. The wind was cold, the city lights reflecting in puddles like fractured mirrors. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Dominic. "We need to talk, alone. Midnight, Pier 47. She hesitated. It sounded wrong, too sudden, too quiet after everything. But she had to know the truth. At midnight, the pier was nearly empty. The Hudson glimmered like black glass. Dominic stood near the edge, hands in his coat pockets, eyes haunted. "You shouldn't have come," he said softly. "You asked me to." "I didn't send that message." Her pulse spiked. "Then who?" Headlights flared at the far end of the pier. A car door slammed. Eleanor Davenport stepped out, her white coat glowing in the darkness like a ghost. "Enough of this circus," she said, voice sharp and cold. "If you wanted war, Anna, you've got it." Dominic moved in front of his daughter instinctively. "Mother, don't do this." Eleanor's lips curved in a brittle smile. "You think I'll watch everything I built burn because of her?" Anna's voice was steady. "You already did." The wind whipped her hair as Eleanor took a step forward. And in that charged silence on the pier, 3 generations of Davenports faced each other, one built on power, one buried by lies, and one ready to end it all. The wind off the Hudson was biting, whipping through the gaps between the steel pylons. The city's skyline glittered behind them, indifferent and silent. Anna stood between Dominic and Eleanor, her heart hammering so hard she could hear it in her ears. Eleanor took a slow step forward, her heels clicking against the wet wood. "You think this ends with you exposing me?" she said, her voice cutting through the cold. "You think you've won something, child?" Anna met her eyes. "I didn't come here to win. I came to finish what my mother started." Dominic tried to move closer to his mother, palms raised. "Mother, please. No more games. No more She turned on him, eyes flashing. "You were never built for power, Dominic. You were built for weakness. That woman made you soft, and now this girl, this mistake, will destroy you completely." Anna's jaw tightened. "I'm not a mistake. I'm the truth you buried." Eleanor's expression hardened. "Do you know what your mother really did? She tried to take you from me. She wanted to raise you in poverty, away from your inheritance, away from what was rightfully ours." Dominic's voice broke. "She wanted to protect her child from you." "She was going to ruin you," Eleanor snapped. "She said she'd go to the press, that she'd tell them about my influence, my dealings, the way I kept Davenport Holdings alive when your father fell apart. She was blackmailing us, Dominic. I did what had to be done." Anna shook her head, disbelief twisting her face. "You're lying." Eleanor's voice softened suddenly, eerily calm. "I gave her a choice, Money or ruin. She took the money. No, Anna said, shaking. She didn't take it. She ran because you threatened her. Dominic's eyes widened. Mother, what did you do to her that night? Eleanor looked away for the first time. She wouldn't listen. I tried to stop her. She fell. The words hit the air like a gunshot. She fell, Dominic whispered. You told me she was dead. She was supposed to be, Eleanor shouted, voice cracking, but she got up and disappeared. I searched for her, but she was gone. You think I slept after that? I was protecting you, all of us, from her revenge. Anna's world tilted. The confession was raw, broken, but real. The image of her mother fleeing into the night suddenly made sense. The fear, the pain, the sense that followed her entire life. Dominic stepped back, horror twisting his features. You didn't protect me. You destroyed me. You destroyed her. And you let me grieve for a ghost. For the first time, Eleanor's face wavered. The iron mask cracked, revealing something fragile underneath. Regret. Maybe even guilt. I built all of this for you. For the family. Anna's voice rose, trembling but steady. Then your family starts over tonight. Without you. Eleanor's breath came in short, sharp bursts. You think you can erase me? You'll never understand what it takes to build power. To keep it. Maybe not, Anna said quietly, but I know what it costs. Behind them, sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder, closer. Flashing red and blue lights cut through the mist. Dominic turned toward his mother. They know, Mother. The police have everything. It's over. Eleanor looked at the approaching lights, her expression unreadable. Then she looked at Anna. Long, cold, almost tender in its intensity. You have her eyes, she whispered. Anna didn't flinch. And her strength. 2 police cars screeched to a halt at the pier's entrance. Officers poured out, shouting commands. Eleanor straightened her coat, spine stiff, dignity intact even as they surrounded her. When they read her rights, she didn't resist. She only said one thing before being led away. Don't let this family die with me. As she disappeared into the flashing lights, Dominic stood motionless. Anna reached for him. He turned to her slowly, eyes wet, voice hollow. She took everything from us, and still I feel like I just lost her. Anna nodded softly. Maybe now we can finally start living. The sirens faded. The river rolled on, endless and dark. And in that quiet aftermath, under the ghostly glow of the city, the last secret of the Davenports was finally laid to rest. The headlines came fast. Eleanor Davenport arrested for fraud and obstruction. Secret heir clears her mother's name. For the first time in 25 years, the truth wasn't whispered in back rooms. It was shouted from every front page. Anna sat in a hospital waiting room, her body finally crashing from the weeks of chaos. The fluorescent lights hummed, the smell of antiseptic filling the air. Dominic had collapsed at the pier after Eleanor's arrest, the shock of it all too much for his heart. Michael paced nearby, his phone pressed to his ear. Yes, we've released the statement. Dominic Davenport is stable but under observation. The company's transition plan is in effect. He hung up, then looked at Anna. You should eat something. She shook her head. Not until I see him. He sat beside her, lowering his voice. You did what no one else could. You ended her reign. Anna's eyes stayed on the closed ICU doors. I didn't want revenge, I just wanted the truth. But now, I feel like I burned everything down. Sometimes, Michael said quietly, you have to burn the rot before anything can grow. Hours passed before the doctor finally appeared. He's awake. You can go in. Dominic looked frail in the hospital bed, his skin pale, his eyes softer than she'd ever seen them. But when he saw her, he managed a weak smile. Guess I finally made the news for the right reasons. She pulled up a chair. You scared me. He chuckled, then winced. Seems fitting. I've been scaring people my whole life." "Don't," she said. "Not tonight." They sat in silence for a while, the monitor beeping steadily beside him. Then he said, "I watched the footage again, the one from that night. Your mother was brave. She didn't run because she was weak. She ran because she refused to become like us." Anna's throat tightened. "She saved me." He nodded. "And you saved me." She looked at him, unsure how to respond. For years, she'd imagined what meeting her father might feel like. It wasn't this, grief tangled with forgiveness. But maybe that's what truth was. Messy, human, incomplete. He reached for her hand, his grip surprisingly steady. "There's something I need you to have." From the bedside drawer, he pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a legal document, stamped and signed. "What is this?" "My last act as CEO," he said. "Half of Davenport Holdings will go to a foundation in your mother's name. The other half, to you. But not as an heir, as my partner." Her breath caught. "I don't want your money." He smiled faintly. "Then use it for something better. Build what I couldn't. Make something clean out of all this ruin." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know where to start." "Start with forgiveness," he said softly. "For her. For me. Maybe even for my mother." Anna stared at him, unsure if she could ever do that. But when she saw how fragile he looked, she realized forgiveness wasn't for the guilty. It was for the living. The next morning, sunlight poured through the hospital windows. Outside, the city moved on, as it always did. Davenport Tower loomed over Manhattan, but for the first time, its shadow didn't feel so heavy. Michael arrived with coffee and the morning paper. "You should see this," he said. The headline read, "Davenport Heir announces Maria Reyes Foundation, dedicated to women rebuilding their lives." Anna blinked. "You already set it up?" Michael grinned. "Dominic made me promise. He said it's time the name Davenport meant something good." She smiled through tears. "Then maybe it finally will." Outside, reporters waited for a statement, but Anna didn't rush. She stood by the window, her reflection caught between city and sky. "Mom," she whispered, "we made it." And as the sun climbed higher over the skyline, the empire that began in lies was reborn in truth. And for the first time, peace didn't feel like surrender. It felt like freedom. 2 weeks after the arrest, Manhattan felt quieter, like the city itself was catching its breath. The storm of headlines had calmed, and Anna was finally sleeping through the night. She still worked part-time at the Sapphire Room, though now the staff whispered when she passed, not out of pity, but awe. It didn't matter to her. She needed something normal, something that reminded her who she was before the name Davenport started chasing her shadow. That night, while wiping down the counter, she caught her reflection in the bar mirror. The same brown eyes, the same tired smile. But something had changed. The fear was gone. The restaurant phone rang, sharp and unexpected. Greg, her manager, handed it over. "For you. Says it's urgent." "Hello?" she said. "Anna." It was Dominic. His voice still carried that quiet authority, but softer now, more human. "I'm being discharged tomorrow. There's something I'd like to talk about, face to face." "Okay," she said cautiously. "Where?" "My office," he replied. "No cameras, no press, just us." The next afternoon, she stood once again in the Davenport Tower, but this time the air felt different. The walls no longer hummed with power. They felt empty. Dominic's office was stripped of its grandeur. No assistants, no board members. Just him, sitting by the window, looking out over the city. A man who'd built everything and lost most of it. "Come in," he said, motioning for her to sit. "I wasn't sure you'd show." "I almost didn't," she admitted. He smiled faintly. "I wouldn't blame you." There was a long pause before he spoke again. "I wanted to see you before I stepped down." The board's voting tomorrow. I'll be resigning officially. Anna studied him. And after that? I'll leave New York for a while. The company will survive without me. But I'm not sure I can survive without... He stopped himself, eyes glancing at the old photograph on his desk. Her mother. Anna swallowed hard. You don't have to disappear. He shook his head. Maybe I do. My name carries too much history. She looked at him for a moment, then reached into her bag and placed the repaired engagement ring, the one her mother had kept all those years, on the desk. Then give it a new one. He stared at it, his eyes glassy. You fixed it. I had it resized, she said. It didn't belong in a drawer. It belongs in the world again. Dominic picked up the ring carefully, like it might crumble. She would have wanted you to have it. She wanted you to have peace, Anna said, and maybe this is how you start. He exhaled slowly, then reached for another folder. Then I'll start with this. He slid it toward her. Inside were legal documents, the transfer of Davenport Holdings' remaining shares, and a new title, Anna Reyes, co-director, Maria Reyes Foundation. Her eyes widened. You're giving me the company? I'm giving you the choice, he said. You can rebuild it your way, or sell it and walk away forever. Either way, it's yours. Anna's chest tightened. I don't want your legacy. Then make it your mother's, he said softly. You carry her courage. I see it every time you stand your ground. Tears stung her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because I owe both of you a lifetime I can't repay. He smiled weakly. And because you're the only one I trust to make something good out of what we destroyed. Anna stood, unable to speak for a moment. Then I'll do it. Not for the Davenports. For her. Dominic nodded, his voice low. That's all I ever wanted. As she turned to leave, he stopped her. Anna, he said softly. You've got her eyes. She smiled through tears. And your stubbornness. When she stepped out into the city air, the ring felt warm in her pocket. And for the first time, the name Davenport didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a promise waiting to be rewritten. The first snow of winter drifted through the city like ash. Anna stood on the platform of the 6 train, scarf wrapped tight, the repaired ring heavy in her pocket. The chaos of the past month had faded into something quieter, a silence she didn't yet know how to live inside. Dominic had left New York the week before. He'd given no destination, just a short message through Michael. Tell her I'll be in touch when I've figured out how to be a person again. Anna didn't blame him. Some ghosts took longer to leave. She spent her days finalizing the paperwork for the Maria Reyes Foundation. The office was small, a few floors below street level in Soho, but it was hers. The plaque on the door read, "Helping women rebuild what was stolen." Every time she passed it, she thought of her mother, folding laundry in their Queen's apartment, humming softly to fill the silence. But there was one thing left undone. That afternoon, Anna took the train to Long Island. The cemetery sat on a quiet hill, half covered in frost. She carried a bouquet of white lilies and a sealed envelope, Dominic's handwriting across the front. Her mother's grave was simple. Maria Reyes, beloved mother, 1976-2005. The headstone was small, the letters worn from weather. Anna knelt in the cold grass, brushing snow from the marble. "Hi, Mom," she whispered. "It's been a while." The wind was sharp, but it felt like it was listening. "I did it," she said softly. "I found him. I found everything. You were right to run. You were right to protect me. And he knows now. He's sorry." She set the flowers down, then looked at the envelope in her hand. "He wrote this for you. I think he needed to say goodbye, too." Anna placed the letter against the stone, pressing it down so the wind wouldn't take it. Then quietly, she read the first few lines aloud. "Maria, I searched for you in every empty place I built. You were the only thing real in a life made of glass. I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. I'm sorry I let fear speak louder than love. But our daughter, she's everything we ever dreamed of. And through her, I finally understand you." Anna's voice cracked. She couldn't keep reading. She folded the letter shut, tears freezing on her cheeks. For a long while, she just sat there, listening to the sound of the wind in the trees. Then she spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to worry anymore. I'm safe. I'm happy. You can rest now." As she stood, a flash of sunlight broke through the clouds, spilling gold across the snow. It caught on the ring around her finger, the ring that had carried every secret, every lie, and now every truth. When she looked up, she saw someone waiting at the gate. Michael, hands in his coat pockets, eyes kind. "Did you give it to her?" he asked. Anna nodded. "Yeah, I think she heard me." He smiled. "You did good, Anna." They walked back toward the car, their footprints the only ones in the snow. Halfway down the hill, Anna turned for one last look. The headstone stood small but strong, sunlight resting over it like a blessing. She whispered, "Goodbye, Mom." And for the first time, the word goodbye didn't hurt. Back in the city, as dusk settled, Anna stood by the window of her new office, looking out at the skyline. The lights of Davenport Tower glowed faintly in the distance. She smiled to herself. "We turned it all into something good, didn't we?" The city didn't answer, but it didn't need to. The silence felt full, alive. And somewhere far away, on a quiet coastline, Dominic Davenport sealed another letter, this one addressed simply to his daughter. A new beginning written in ink, not secrets. Spring came early that year. The city thawed from its winter silence, and the world seemed to move a little slower, as if even New York needed to rest after everything it had witnessed. Anna stood in the new foundation office, surrounded by boxes and the smell of fresh paint. Sunlight poured through the windows, catching the gold letters on the wall. The Maria Reyes Foundation for Women. It had taken months of planning, endless paperwork, and sleepless nights. But it was finally real. The place her mother had dreamed of without ever saying the words. A refuge for women starting over. Women who had been silenced, overlooked, or erased, just like Maria once was. Naomi leaned against the doorway, sipping her coffee. "You realize you built an empire, right? A different kind of one, but still an empire." Anna smiled faintly. "Yeah, one that doesn't ruin people." Naomi grinned. "I like this version of you better. The boss who wears sneakers and eats cold pizza at her desk." Anna laughed. "Me too." A knock interrupted them. Michael stepped inside, holding a stack of mail. "Busy day already. Press wants an update on the opening ceremony next week." "Tell them it's not about me," Anna said. "It's about her." She pointed to the framed photo of Maria on the wall, the same one that had once sat beside her childhood bed. Michael nodded. "And about what comes next." He handed her an envelope. "This came for you. No return address." Anna frowned, tearing it open. Inside was a simple handwritten note. "Pier 47, tonight at 8. Come alone." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "Creepy. Don't tell me you're actually going." "I know that handwriting," Anna said softly. "It's his." That evening, she took the subway to the waterfront. The air smelled like salt and rust, the sun melting into the Hudson. She stood at the same spot where everything had ended, and in some strange way, begun. A figure appeared at the end of the pier, walking slowly, coat fluttering in the wind. Dominic. His face looked older, gentler, but there was something peaceful in his eyes now. "You came," he said, smiling faintly. "I wasn't sure if I should," she admitted. He nodded. "That makes two of us." For a long time, they just stood there, the city lights flickering around them. "I've been in Maine," he said finally. "Small town, quiet. I've had a lot of time to think." "About her?" Anna asked. "About both of you," he said. "About what I missed. About what I still have time to fix." Anna studied him. "You don't owe me anything, Dominic." He shook his head. "I owe you honesty. You were right that night. Legacy isn't about power, it's about people. Your mother tried to teach me that. I didn't listen then, but I'm listening now." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small box. Inside was the repaired engagement ring. The diamond caught the last light of dusk. "I want you to keep it," he said. "Not as a symbol of what was broken, but of what survived." Anna's eyes glistened. "She wore it until the end. I think she wanted me to find you." He smiled sadly. "And you did. You found me when I didn't even know I was still lost." For the first time, he reached out and pulled her into an embrace. It wasn't awkward or uncertain. It was something that had been waiting a lifetime. When they stepped back, he said quietly, "You have her heart." "And your stubbornness," she replied, smiling through tears. They stood watching the river until the sun was gone and the city lights replaced the stars. As they turned to leave, Dominic looked back once more. "You've made her proud, Anna. You've made me proud." She nodded. "Then that's enough." They walked side by side toward the city, their shadows stretching behind them. Two lives finally crossing where love and loss had once collided. And for the first time in 25 years, the Davenport family walked into a future unburdened by lies, carrying only the truth and each other. A year passed. Seasons turned quietly, and the world slowly forgot the chaos of the Davenport scandal. But for Anna, life had only just begun. The Maria Reyes Foundation had grown beyond what she ever imagined. The little basement office in Soho was now a full-fledged center downtown, a place filled with laughter, second chances, and the hum of new beginnings. Women from every corner of the city came through those glass doors looking for help, for purpose, for hope. And every time one of them smiled again, Anna thought of her mother. On the morning of the Foundation's first anniversary gala, she stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress. Naomi peeked in from the doorway, grinning. "You clean up pretty good for a girl who used to serve pancakes to Wall Street jerks." Anna laughed. "Don't remind me. Half of those jerks are on tonight's guest list." Naomi handed her a small clutch. "Speech is inside. Don't wing it like last time." "I'll try," Anna said, but her nerves buzzed anyway. Downstairs, the ballroom was already filling with guests, politicians, philanthropists, former Davenport investors who now supported her work. The energy was warm, not performative. It felt real. As Anna stepped onto the stage, the crowd quieted. She took a deep breath, scanning the sea of faces. Near the back of the room, she spotted him. Dominic, standing tall, proud, healthier than he'd looked in years. His applause was the first to break the silence. Anna smiled and began. "A year ago, I stood in a very different place. I thought truth was a weapon. I thought it meant tearing things down. But I've learned truth can also build, if you let it. My mother, Maria Reyes, believed in second chances. She didn't get one, so this foundation exists to give them to others." The audience was silent, listening. "She taught me that strength isn't loud, it's steady. It's the woman who starts over at 40 with nothing. The single mother who raises her child while the world looks away. The survivor who refuses to stay silent. This place is for them, and it's for her." Applause filled the room, genuine and thunderous. Anna blinked back tears, smiling through it. When the ceremony ended, Dominic approached, moving slower these days, but with purpose. He handed her a small glass of champagne. "To Maria," he said softly. "To Maria?" she echoed. They stood together, watching people laugh and dance, the band playing soft jazz under the chandelier. "She would have loved this," Dominic said. "You, standing up there, stronger than both of us ever were." Anna smiled. "I think she's here. Every time someone walks through those doors, she's here." He nodded, eyes glassy. "I hope so." From the corner of the room, Michael raised his glass toward them. "To the new Davenports," he called out, smiling. "The honest ones." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Dominic shook his head, amused. "He's never going to let that go." "Good," Anna said. "It keeps us accountable." As the night drew to a close, she slipped outside for a moment of quiet. The city lights sparkled against the dark sky. The air was crisp, the world alive with sound. She took out the repaired engagement ring and turned it between her fingers, the engraving still visible. "To MR, all my love, D." Her mother's ring had come full circle, once a symbol of betrayal, now a reminder of everything they'd survived. Dominic joined her outside, hands in his pockets. "What happens next?" he asked. Anna smiled, eyes on the skyline. "We keep building, the right way this time." He nodded. "Then maybe, finally, we've done something good." She slipped the ring back onto her finger and looked up at the stars. "No, Dad," she said quietly. "You did something good. You gave her story an ending." The wind carried their silence like a prayer, and in that moment, beneath the lights of a city that had once buried their truth, the Davenports finally became what they were always meant to be, a family redeemed by love, not legacy. So that's how the story ends, my friends. You're still here, aren't you? If you've stayed with me this long, then something in Anna's journey must have touched your heart in its own quiet way. Her story isn't just about secrets or revenge. It's about truth, forgiveness, and the courage to rebuild from the ashes. Like the Stoics taught, what stands in the way becomes the way. Every wound can become wisdom if we dare to face it. Anna learned that peace isn't found in power or wealth. It's found in honesty, in choosing compassion when anger would be easier. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us. You don't have to carry the past like a punishment. You can use it as a map. So if you've ever been broken, betrayed, or silenced, remember this. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means transforming. If this story moved you even a little, take a deep breath with me. Share it with someone who needs light tonight. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more stories that remind you you are stronger than what tried to destroy you.